Well, hello. Welcome to my mini session on understanding and breaking free from the drama cycle. If anyone's heard of the drama cycle, it was developed by Steven Karpman, and it's also known as the drama triangle, and there's some other names for it. We'll explore how people often get caught up in the roles of victim, bully or persecutor, and rescuer, or sometimes known as martyr or hero, and how we can move beyond these roles to lead more healthier, more empowered lives. So I found this model extremely helpful in my personal life and also as a tool in my counseling practice. So let's start by looking at the three roles in the drama cycle. The victim. This is often the person who feels helpless, always saying, I can't do it, or it's not my fault. And they seek problems and depend on others to rescue them. These are generalized oversimplifications, but just as a guide. Now, the victim often feels oppressed, hopeless, ashamed, powerless, incapable, and misunderstood. They often seek a rescuer to validate these feelings. They refuse to make decisions, get help, solve problems, or do self-care or make change. They avoid responsibilities. What I've found is generally we don't get as many victims as clients because they won't even get to that point of admitting they need to take responsibility. I've found most of clients that come to me in counseling and coaching are rescuers, which is interesting. The rescuer is the person who feels validated by helping others, but often overextends themselves, eventually leading to a burnout or becoming a victim themselves. They think things like, why do I always have to save everyone? The rescuer, interestingly enough, often feels guilty and anxious if they're not rescuing, and they can feel unknowingly superior in some way when they're rescuing others. They often provide unsolicited support, and they feel connected when a victim is dependent on them. Interestingly also is they often expect to fail. And the bully. The bully is the one who pushes their own agenda. They often blame others, saying things like, you're so hopeless, or why can't you do it right? The bully is often highly critical, putting others down, blaming and pointing fingers, driven by an underlying anger and resentment and rigid thinking, and comes across as bossy and dominating. These roles can shift quickly, and people often find themselves switching between them without even realizing. So I'm just going to look at some examples here of how these roles were created, just some oversimplification examples. So a victim. A child tries to help clean up after dinner, but accidentally spills a glass of water. Instead of encouragement, their parent scolds them and says, see, this is why I can't count on you to do anything. Over time, the child feels incompetent and begins to rely on others to fix situations or validate their worth. Other examples are a child repeatedly hears from caregivers, you're too young to understand, or you can't do anything right, whenever they attempt to solve problems or express their opinions. Over time, the child internalizes the belief that they're incapable of handling challenges or making decisions, creating a sense of helplessness and dependence on others to rescue them. The rescuer. An example, a child consistently steps in to mediate arguments between parents, earning praise for being so mature. They grow up believing their role is to solve others' problems, even at the expense of their own well-being. A child may be conditioned to prioritize others' needs over their own, often to gain approval or to avoid conflict. This can happen if they're praised only when they're helping others, or are expected to keep the peace in a chaotic or neglectful environment. They learn that their worth comes from fixing others' problems, reinforcing the rescuer role. An example of the bully. A child is frequently scolded and shamed for minor mistakes, leading them to feel small and powerless. They might lash out at peers by teasing or intimidating them. as it temporarily restores a sense of power. A child who experiences criticism, punishment, or neglect without emotional support may adopt the bully role as a defense mechanism. They may feel powerless in their own life and project their frustration and anger onto others to regain a sense of control and dominance. You may have heard the saying, hurt people hurt people. Let's look at some examples in action and how the drama cycle plays out in real life. So let's imagine a domestic dispute. The husband, the bully in this case, argues with his wife, the victim. A police officer, the rescuer, intervenes and arrests the husband. Now the husband becomes the victim, while the officer takes on the bully role. The wife, upset, attacks the officer, becoming the new bully. This example shows how quickly roles can shift depending on the situation. These dynamics are common in families, businesses, media, and even on a global scale, affecting the way that we interact with others. Now, roles can shift quickly in various environments. So here's another example. We've got a mother who chastises her child. She is the bully. The child complains to the father. The child becomes the victim. The father intervenes, taking on the rescuer role. The drama cycle is not just in families, as we mentioned. It's present in social groups, workplaces, government structures, and even on a global scale amongst countries. This continuous cycle keeps shifting based on the actions of those involved. So here are some key takeaways from understanding the drama cycle. Life can be filled with drama. We all participate in the drama cycle. It's a natural part of human interaction. The issue arises when we get stuck in one role, so breaking the cycle. Victims need to learn to take responsibility and to stop seeking rescuers to feel better. Rescuers need to learn to say no without feelings of guilt. And bullies need to recognize the harm caused and seek to become more empathetic. There is another role we can play. Observers. This is the I in this illustration. We need to learn to stay detached and evaluate situations objectively. So now let's talk about how to break free from these roles and move towards more healthier, more empowered interactions. Moving beyond drama. The victim. As we know, the victim feels powerless, hurt, and stuck. They can change by acknowledging their inner strength and resources to create what is wanted in their life, becoming responsible. They move to a position of creator. The rescuer. As we know, the rescuer feels responsible for saving others, leading to resentment. To change in their life, they need to learn to recognize others have the inner resources to handle their own challenges. They move to a position of becoming more like a coach. And the bully. The bully, as we know, feels angry, frustrated, and often blames others. They need to learn to be honest about past pain, allow vulnerability, and release anger, taking back personal power. They move to becoming a challenger rather than a bully. One of the most empowering positions to take is that of the observer. The observer steps back, detaches, and looks at the situation without emotional involvement. They stay aware of the drama cycles around them and choose their position, ensuring they remain at cause instead of at effect in their life. Observers identify the roles being played by others and consciously decide not to enter into the cycle. They make a conscious decision to act from an empowered place, focusing on being the best version of themselves. To move to an observer requires clear communication and boundary setting. For example, imagine a heated argument between two co-workers about a missed deadline. One accuses the other, the bully, and the other defends themselves, becoming the victim. You might feel tempted to step in as the rescuer to mediate. However, stepping back as an observer allows you to assess the situation objectively, avoid being pulled into the drama, and decide whether your involvement is necessary or if they can resolve it themselves. Sometimes staying neutral is the best way to maintain clarity and avoid perpetuating the cycle. As an observer, you see the bigger picture and understand that there are many perspectives. This prevents you from being caught up in the drama and helps you focus on your goals. So let's look at a simplified real-world example. A mother keeps rescuing her drug-addicted daughter by providing resources which the daughter then misuses. This mother feels guilty and trapped in the cycle. The solution might be for the mother to speak to a therapist who might help the mother to see that she must overcome her guilt and stop enabling her daughter. By doing this, she stops feeding the cycle and creates space for her to take responsibility for her actions. Recognizing when we're playing these roles in real life is key to breaking the cycle and creating healthier relationships. Now, I've just put a little bit about how you might sometimes unconsciously become a rescuer as a counselor. Feeling a strong urge to save the client instead of empowering them. Taking excessive responsibility for a client's healing journey. Avoiding client discomfort by offering solutions too quickly. And feeling burnout or frustration when clients don't improve. We need to learn to step out of the rescuer role, especially if we are a counselor. We need to shift from fixing to empowering, encouraging self-awareness and self-efficacy. We need to maintain professional boundaries, avoiding over-involvement in a client's life. We need to remember to use reflective practice, regularly assessing if we're taking on too much responsibility. And of course, remembering the importance of supervision and peer support, discussing any issues or rescuer tendencies with a supervisor or colleagues. So if you recognize yourself in the rescuer role, which happens sometimes, pause and reflect. What unmet needs might be driving this urge? Seek therapy or supervision. Address your personal triggers and patterns. Practice self-compassion. Understand that you are not responsible for fixing clients. And recognize that effective therapy happens when we hold space, not when we rescue. Being a counselor means supporting, not saving. Staying self-aware ensures ethical, impactful therapy. To wrap up, stepping into the observer role allows you to break free from the drama cycle. Breaking free from the drama cycle requires self-inquiry and awareness to see what role you have been conditioned to play. Understand the dynamics at play and observe them. Gain the freedom to choose your response. Acknowledge your power, moving beyond drama, and create a life of calm observation with more peace. Thank you for your time today. I hope this lesson has helped you understand the drama cycle and how to break free from it. Remember, you have the power to choose your role and create healthier, more empowered relationships. Thank you.